Hey friends, it's me Alyssa and I am back with Live in Local Atlanta. I'm here with my two incredible friends. They are relationship experts, marriage experts, Atlanta natives. I'm here with Hassani and Danielle. They're a married couple here in Atlanta and they've got something incredible going on. Thank you all for joining me today. How are you?
Doing
Great.
good. No complaints.
I love it. I love when there's no complaints, although I think that's what we're supposed to say even if there are complaints.
True that.
So,
That's true.
even if we do have complaints, just have to throw it in the back of our mind. Now, you all have an incredible brand here in Atlanta, and it's called
Couples Academy.
Couples Academy. And I thought this was so fun to hear the name of it, just because you don't think about relationships or couples needing to go to school, if you will, to learn how to be in a good relationship. Some of it is, I don't want to say hit or miss, or you stumble, you fall, you get back up, but it's nice to hear when you have coaches or a teacher to help guide you along. And some of this is based off of your own personal story. Is this right?
Yeah. I think it's crazy that we don't think we need to be educated to be married, right? If you had to go get a surgery, you would go to the surgeon that specializes in the issue that you have, right? So you get skills. We don't do it in marriage, and so we struggle so much to understand how to communicate, how to deal with finances, how to deal with parenting, all the major things. So it's absolutely necessary to get that schooling. So we didn't have it, and so we decided we're going to create it. But it didn't happen quite like that. Like, it kind of happened by way of our own crisis. And we really wanted to fix our marriage for ourselves. So we became family coaches to fix our marriage. And then we found out, wow, people really have serious issues. Maybe we can do this and help other people.
And then doing that and helping other people, we came across so many couples who were experiencing infidelity in particular. And at the time, we didn't have the skill set to really navigate them through that process. And so we got training. And one of the areas of expertise that we really focus on, we're infidelity recovery specialists. So couples who are in crisis, on the verge of divorce, or have been impacted by an affair come to us and we guide them through a process to let them know that there is life on the other side if they're willing to go through that process.
And I think that's really fascinating, just because I think oftentimes when we do hear infidelity or hear somebody had an affair, it immediately is, hey, you know what, let's call it a day, it's done, pull the plug, it's over. Can you talk a little bit about how people, the state in which they come to you and the work you do when it comes to kind of coaching people through infidelity and moving past this particular trauma in a relationship?
It's interesting. I mean, obviously most people are in crisis, but some just found out a week ago. Some have been struggling with the knowledge of it for the last 10 years and have still been in a very low place and haven't been able to kind of bounce back. And so from the time that they discover it to the time that they come to us, they're trapped in what we will call the discovery phase, which is the most painful, emotionally volatile phase where couples go through literal hell. And so when they reach a place where, you know what, either we're going to end this thing or see if there's anything possible, that's when they show up and we guide them through that process.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's really, truly fascinating, because I know me and my husband both, I mean, not that we would, and not that it's anybody's business, but we both up front, listed before we even got married, our huge, what's a deal breaker, our, financial, how we look at money, all of that stuff. And the number one thing for both of us was, don't cheat. You know what? And if you feel you have to stray, please just divorce me. I don't want to be with somebody who's not loyal. So, I find this really incredibly fascinating, just to see how you're able to work through building that foundation and those core values again, from something so heavy and hard to recover from.
Yeah.
And you say you both went through training. What was training like? Who did you go to? Did you go to cheaters? How do you know who an expert is in that? I'd love to hear the story behind this.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the infidelity recovery part of it really was something that evolved, right? Because we were in a marriage that was tumultuous, but it was different things. It was verbal assassination. It was issues with communication, issues with finances, issues with the kids, issues with everything. And so as we started to have serious conversations around our kitchen table with couples who were having really interesting issues in their marriage, we started to get training on other things. We started reading all the books. We started going online and finding all the information that we could find out to help these couples. And so a lot of what we do evolved over time.
Yeah. And there were certifications, if you will, in infidelity recovery, but I think over the last decade we've built our own system and our own approach, which I think is a lot more comprehensive. And so, yeah, of course, talking to people who have cheated, you gain insight on what they're going through. So there's a process where you learn from your clients, but then there's a level of expertise that we guide them through to get them to a better place.
Yeah. And I wanted to add something, because you mentioned something about deal breakers. And I think it's interesting because oftentimes we will set up our deal breakers before there's a deal that's broken, right? So in the beginning, we say, if you cheat, I'm leaving. That's before you have children. That's before you've bought a house together. That's before your finances
Yes.
are mingled. You know, that's before in-laws and all of these things that matter. And so couples that come to us in crisis, it's like they're in triage, you know. They've experienced something that they never thought they would experience before. They are married to someone that they no longer feel like they know. And so it's our job to just stop the bleeding, right? Let's stop the bleeding and get you to a stable place so that we can make decisions from here. That's the thing that I think we're most passionate about in what we do.
And I think that's a powerful point because, to your point, most would say, I'm never going to put up with this until they're faced with that situation. It's like comparing a person who rents to a person who owns. I can easily break a lease, pay the fee, and move on about my business. But when I have a home that I actually own, it's a whole lot, it's a different journey to get out of that. And likewise, when it comes to a marriage, it's the same thing. And so this is why we love this work, because we take couples through what we will call a three-pronged approach. We focus on your marital recovery, we focus on your individual recovery, because the path of healing for the betrayed spouse is different for the unfaithful. They're two completely different things. They're hurt and they're broken for two different reasons. So they have their individual journey. But then there's the affair recovery. And this is where most therapists and practitioners stop, because they haven't been trained, they don't have the expertise to guide people through that type of detailed process.
Just letting it all soak in. Like you said before, it's pretty comprehensive. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit. You have an event coming up in February, and I want to talk about this a little bit. It's an opportunity for couples to really just learn from each other. Can you give us a little bit of details about that?
Sure, it's our last chance weekend. Every single month, we have couples who drive and fly in from all over the country who spend 3 days with us. And in that
In your house personally?
In
or?
our house.
No.
Actually, yes.
Yeah.
No
yes.
way.
Our home, we purchased a home that really operates as a retreat center as well. So we have couples who stay with us, and we take them through a very grueling process, like 12 hours a day.
Long days.
But those 3 days literally are equivalent to 8 months of counseling. The average couple only goes through 6 to 8 weeks of counseling. And so they miss an opportunity to transform their relationship. But in those 3 days, we take them through a grueling process that literally transforms their lives and their marriage.
It's amazing. They transform the way that they think. They discover themselves on a granular level. We do a personality assessment that just really strips them down naked before each other. It increases empathy and hope. So they walk away from a very grueling, trying weekend with a renewed hope, a sense of hope.
I'm shocked that you let people in your house.
You know, well, they're not in our bedroom, but we do have
it's
facility.
just, it's your home. It's one of those things. It's just,
And we have a guest house, so it operates like more of a conference space, right? So
Okay.
it's very comfortable. We take care of them. It's a very comfortable experience, even though we're going through a very trying challenge.
And the environment is everything.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like you're in a safe environment,
Yeah.
then it's going to be very difficult for you to open up. And so a lot of times people are used to going into a therapist's office, it's stale, you're in a seat, there's a
Yeah.
spotlight on you, it's uncomfortable, and you're like, oh my God, when is this session over? But we create that home away from
Oh, yeah.
home atmosphere that makes it
You're
a whole
among
lot
nature.
better.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's great.
I guess the whole thing shocks me because you're a married couple, you work together, and you're taking your work home with you, basically.
Yeah.
So when do you
How
get
do
the
we do
break?
it?
And when
That's
do
a
you
good
when do you
question.
get the break? When do you get to focus on number one, me time individually, like you're saying, but couples time together if
Yeah.
work is always surrounding you?
You know, people always ask us this, like, how do you work with your spouse? I could never handle it.
I can't. We've tried.
Yeah, and that's the case for some people. I think we just have a unique pairing. And I talk about personalities a lot because that really does matter. And if people understood who they were married to before they got married, they would save themselves a lot of heartache, right? But we have a unique pairing that helps us do that really well. Plus, we like to vacation a lot.
Yeah.
We like to step away from our lives. We like to go away. We do a lot of what we call drink and drives, right? Where we just escape our children and we just go drive, not with alcohol, but with coffee. And we have deep conversations and we reconnect. So we do a lot of things to stay connected. and get away from work.
I love that.
One of the biggest challenges that couples have is that they have a time-starved marriage, right? So before you got married, you spent all your time together. You were dating, you were talking, and as soon as you said "I do," your relationship becomes the last thing on your list of priorities.
Wow.
And so you give each other the leftovers. You give the world the best of you. You give your spouse the least of you, the worst of you. And we had to put certain boundaries in place. So we've learned how to time block for just us. And we do that on a regular basis. So in addition to the vacations, every single week we make sure we have date night. We have conversations about our relationship, so we're moving forward in a positive direction.
See, baby, I'm not nagging you when I ask for date night. Just remember that. But, yeah, me and my husband, we definitely do the same. I have in my phone twice a week, just dedicated 1 hour conversation.
Yeah.
I'm always on my husband about this. We actually only dated for 25 days and then got eloped. So
Wow.
I really didn't know who I was marrying. Not that he's a bad guy. He's a wonderful husband, great man. But
How long married?
we've been married now for almost 4 years.
Okay,
Wow,
So-
that's
doing good.
So, and it really, for him, that's how it is in his culture. He's Lebanese, and they're like, look, you date for a week, you get married. So, for me, dating him for 25 days was basically like the whole thing. I was like, what's wrong with you?
Wow.
But it's always an adventure, and I'm always on him because I grew up here in the U.S., and it's like, I'm like, no, we have to schedule time. No, it's okay if you want to see a couples therapist and there's no problems. And he's like, no. So, we've learned on the fly to really, I adjust to him, he adjusts to me, and we work together to work through those types of problems and issues that happen to us, issues we do to each other, just to become stronger. And it's great always hearing couples who are 20 years in, 15 years in, however many years, and, talk about some of these foundational blocks, and I'm like, wow, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I'm doing it. I have a successful marriage.
Yeah,
So
good for you.
it is exciting to hear. Now, I have to ask you, you mentioned, putting up boundaries and putting dedicated time towards your partner. What's something people can do at home? Maybe 3 easy things they can start incorporating today to making a marriage healthy again.
I think there's something that we talk about called rituals of connection. And there's 4 in particular: work, play, talk, pray, right? So working means coming alongside your spouse. If she's cooking, I'm going to set the table. If she's washing clothes, I'm going to help fold them. It doesn't require a lot of conversation, but it's a nonverbal reminder that, hey, we work together. But then work, play. Play. You have to play. So we're talking about date night once a week, but also finding time in the day to laugh, to giggle, to joke with each other, just to have a pleasant moment and make that a normal part of your day. Then you have pray, right? It's important as a couple that you have a spiritual foundation, whatever that is. It's a shared commonality, is a shared belief. And when you begin to do that, it really takes a relationship to the next level. And then talking regularly, debriefing every single day. When there are concerns, when there are feelings that need to be expressed, creating a safe environment to do that. And when you do that regularly,
Yes.
every single day, you're building equity into the relationship that is long-lasting and sustainable.
Absolutely.
I love
Yes.
that. It's always great to hear different tips and takes for relationships from different experts and from different backgrounds. You all have your own story and how you came to these conclusions. Other people go from research and being an author or a therapist or this or that. So it's always great to hear these types of stories. Now, I have to ask, this is something I try and ask people as much as I can. Now, you all are a successful power couple. Can you walk us through kind of a routine you both follow in the morning so to get you both started for the day, whether it starts individually or as a couple? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, we've had so many conversations about mutual respect, right? Because we're so different. So Hassani is up in the morning and he's active. His brain is go, go, go. Mine takes a little bit more time to warm up. So we have one ritual where he will wait patiently for me to wake up and actually say, good morning, before he starts saying, hey, what are we doing today? What's on the task? Because he can go, 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 go. So we have that mutual respect. One thing that I love is that he is thoughtful. So because he's up before I'm up, he always goes and gets coffee and brings it in the morning. I think overall what you're looking for is how can the couple feel like there is a mutual connection and that each person's needs are being met in the morning when you start the day, because it's so easy for everybody to go in their opposite directions. So it's really for the couple to meet and say, what are those needs? What is it that you need from me to get that day starting well for you? So we try our best to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting. You know, the average U.S. couple, according to statistics, only engages in about 4 minutes of conversation a day. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
And it's usually happening at the most inopportune, inappropriate times of the day. Early in the morning as we're racing off to work, and late at night when we come home from an exhaustive day at work. And by that time, we're spent, we don't have any words, we just don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
So we have made it a point, after she's ready to engage, that we do have time in the morning where we talk. We pray in the morning, we talk about the day in the morning, and we're intentional to give each other something before we get started on our day.
Yeah.
You know, the way that you start the day really impacts what the rest of your day is going to be like. And, you know, for me as a heart center person, I want to make sure that we're in a good space.
Yeah.
So I'd like to ask, somebody like me, I've got a completely opposite schedule from my husband. I'm up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm here by 5:15. He's still way asleep, not even hitting the road for work until about 8 a.m. How do you kind of navigate that situation where you're saying there's about 4 minutes of conversation time, or people only have 4 minutes of time to talk?
Yeah.
How do you navigate that and find the time to make it happen?
Yeah, so we find that we have that scenario quite often, right? Sometimes he has to go catch a flight and leave early in the morning, and I'm still sleeping. But what he does is he'll come over and he'll touch my head. He'll give me a kiss in the morning. He'll give me a quick hug. When he does that, at least I know that he was there and he made an effort to connect. There's more than one type of communication, right? He could have said something, but then there's touch, right? And so doing that alone really does something. I think we do a good job of that. If I have to get up before him, I'm going to make sure that I do some touching, I say something, I acknowledge him before I leave the house. And that helps us.
Yeah. And then check-ins throughout the course of the day. Like if you're working a 10, 12, 14-hour shift and some people are so zoned in, they're not thinking about anything else but work, not including their spouse. So checking in, hey babe, got 10 minutes, I just want to let you know what I'm doing. I'm eating lunch, I'm on my way to the office, I got a meeting in 2 seconds. And so just that little touch
Yep.
point really does a whole lot to make you still feel connected to your spouse.
It does. And then the evening routine, because when you come home, the person that left early is exhausted, right? And so there's so much that the person that's there early can do. Like sometimes it's me getting the food started early. Sometimes it's him. Or sometimes it's just acknowledging that the person needs to decompress for a minute. Bring them something to drink, check in on them. What do you need, right? So it's really just having certain courtesies and being considerate of your spouse.
And last thing, because of the busyness of the schedule, you have to prioritize date night. Going back to that same point,
Oh, yeah.
because if you don't have that, every day will feel like Groundhog's Day. Like you're caught up in this time
Monotonous.
trap
Oh.
and nothing, like what are you living for? What are you working for? What are you doing all this work for if there's nothing to celebrate and to connect
So true.
at the end?
That is very true. I love that reference. That's also a pretty good movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, so now I'll go home and watch it. You've convinced me. But I have to ask, how can people find out more information about you guys, stay in touch with you, about the Last Chance Weekend?
Yes.
Want to make sure I say that right. Last Chance Weekend.
Mhm.
How can they find out more information?
They can simply go to our website at couplesacademy.org. We have a strong presence on YouTube, over 1,100 videos on affair recovery. Just type in Couples Academy, Instagram, Couples Academy, Twitter, Couples Academy. That's our universe.
And I want to add, we have a lot of events going on throughout the year. We have the Unearth Women's Retreat coming up. Check that out. Also, in October, we have the Phoenix Awards
Oh,
Gala,
yes.
where we acknowledge power couples around the country who have overcome obstacles, who are making an impact in their community, and we honor them at an amazing, humongous venue. This year, we're going to be at the Westin
Yeah.
in Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to be a phenomenal event, so check it out.
I love it. I love it. Do you have any last words of advice, a hot tip or take that you would give anybody who passes you on the street that you'd want to share with the audience today?
People ask me all the time, what's the most important tip you can give me for our relationship? I would say most couples struggle with 5 things: sex, finances, parenting, in-laws, and communication. Those are the big 5. And really, when you don't engage in effective communication, problems show up in all those other areas. So I would say master communication in your relationship. It's the key to the breakthrough.
I love it. I love it. Mine's always pour the cereal first, do the milk second. But mastering communication sounds like a pretty good tip if you ask me. This has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me. And can you let everyone know that social media handle one more time so they can always find out more information?
At Couples Academy.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. This is Live in Local Atlanta. I'm your host, Alyssa. Thanks so much for joining me. And of course, make sure you download the free Odyssey app. That's AUDACY inside the App Store. And once it's downloaded, favorite Star 94 Atlanta so you can get notified of exclusive conversations just like this one with my incredible friends, Hassani and Danielle of Couples Academy, and all the amazing work they're doing. And go ahead and give Star 94 a follow across all social media at Star 94 Atlanta. And if you want to stay up to date with me, you can give me a follow at itsme_Alyssa D. I will see you guys next time.